There is an old story of a man who spent his entire life searching for a mythical healing gem. He traveled deserts and crossed oceans, grew old and weary, only to return to his humble home, defeated. As he collapsed in his garden, a strange light caught his eye. There, buried beneath the very rosebush he had planted as a child, was the gem he had sought his entire life. This story is a perfect metaphor for the modern spiritual search. We are endlessly encouraged to look outside ourselves for peace, for meaning, for a connection to the divine. The Sufis, however, whisper a revolutionary truth. That which you are seeking is also seeking you, and the meeting place is inside your own heart. This simple parable contains within it the diagnosis and the cure for the pervasive spiritual ache of our time. It speaks to a profound and painful disorientation that defines the modern human experience. We are the most connected, most informed, and most technologically advanced civilization in history, yet we are haunted by an inner emptiness. We suffer from a quiet famine of the soul. We have built a world that is a marvel of external engineering, but a wasteland for the inner life. We are the weary traveler in the story, crossing the vast, glittering deserts of achievement and the turbulent oceans of distraction, convinced that the mythical gem of happiness, peace, or fulfillment lies somewhere out there, just beyond the next horizon, the next career milestone, the next relationship, the next purchase, the next spiritual retreat, the next perfected version of ourselves. And so, we spend our lives on this frantic external quest. We accumulate experiences, knowledge, and possessions, believing they will fill the void. Our digital lives are a testament to this search. We curate identities, collect followers, and broadcast our journey, hoping for an echo of validation from the outside world that will finally convince us of our own worth. But it never quite does. The satisfaction is fleeting, the validation ephemeral. The thirst remains unquenched. Like the traveler in the story, we often reach the twilight of our years, or perhaps just a quiet, unguarded moment on a Tuesday afternoon, and find ourselves exhausted, defeated, and no closer to the treasure than when we began. We find ourselves back in the familiar, humble garden of our own being, with nothing to show for our travels but the dust on our clothes and the weariness in our bones. This experience, this quiet desperation, is not a personal failure. It is not a sign that you are broken or that life is meaningless. On the contrary, the great spiritual physicians of the Sufi tradition would say that this feeling of exhaustion and disenchantment is a sacred symptom. It is a sign of grace. It is the beginning of wisdom. It is the moment the soul finally begins to suspect that it has been searching in the wrong direction. It is the moment of return, the moment we collapse in our own garden. And it is here, in this state of surrender, that the possibility of a true discovery arises. It is here that we might finally notice a different kind of light, not the harsh glare of the world's empty promises, but a soft, internal luminescence. This is an invitation to cease the frantic outward journey and begin a different kind of exploration, a journey inward. It is an invitation to stop trying to find the gem and to start tending to the garden where it has been buried all along. The ancient masters of the heart did not offer a new destination to seek, but a new way to see. They taught that the human heart is not just a muscle that pumps blood. It is a vast inner landscape, a seat of divine perception, an inner eye capable of witnessing reality itself. But like the garden in the story, it has become overgrown and neglected. Its light has been obscured. Our work, then, is not to travel the world, but to cultivate our own soil, to pull the weeds of the conditioned self, and to allow the hidden splendor within to finally reveal itself. This is the journey we are invited upon today, a journey home to the forgotten garden of the heart.
The central tragedy of our modern condition, as seen through the Sufi lens, is a case of mistaken identity. We have forgotten the nature of the garden and become obsessed with the journey. The great 11th century sage Al-Ghazali, often called the proof of Islam, dedicated much of his life to mapping this inner world. He described the human heart, not the physical organ, but the spiritual heart, the qalb, as a mirror. Its original, pristine nature is to perfectly reflect the light and beauty of the divine. It is our instrument of true perception, the organ through which we can experience not just information about reality, but the very texture and presence of reality itself. In its polished state, the heart sees the sacred in the ordinary, feels the unity in diversity, and experiences a profound, unshakable peace that is not dependent on external circumstances. This is the healing gem. It is not an object to be possessed, but a state of being to be realized. So why don't we experience this? Why does the mirror feel so clouded, so tarnished? Al-Ghazali and other Sufi masters explained that the mirror becomes covered by veils or rust. These are not external obstacles, but internal ones, generated by what they called the nafs, a term we can translate as the ego, the lower self, or the conditioned psyche. The ego is the part of us that identifies exclusively with our thoughts, our body, our roles, our history, and our possessions. It is the architect of the external search. Imagine the garden of the heart. The gem of our true nature, the divine spark, is buried at its center. But over the years, the ego has been hard at work. It has planted thick, thorny bushes of resentment over perceived slights from the past. It has sown sprawling weeds of anxiety about a future that does not yet exist. It has erected tall, opaque fences of belief, rigid ideas about who we are, what the world is, and what is or isn't possible. It has littered the ground with the debris of insatiable desire, the endless wanting of what we do not have, which prevents us from ever appreciating the ground we stand upon. The noise of modern life is the perfect fertilizer for this overgrowth. The constant stream of information, the demand for productivity, the culture of comparison fueled by social media, the glorification of busyness, all of these conspire to keep our attention fixed outward on the surface of life. We are so busy managing the weeds, trimming them just enough to be presentable, that we forget the purpose of the garden altogether. We forget the existence of the gem buried beneath. Our attention, which is the water of the soul, is constantly being diverted to nourish the ego's projects, leaving the deep roots of our spiritual heart to wither in drought. This is the state of spiritual amnesia, or what the Sufis call ghafla, heedlessness. It is the state of living as if the surface is all there is. We become so identified with the traveler, with the story of our search, that we forget we are the garden itself. The ego thrives on this externalization. It tells us peace is out there once you achieve this. Love is out there once you find the right person. God is out there in a holy place, separate from you. This voice is convincing because it is familiar. It is the narrator we have listened to since childhood. The first courageous step on the path inward is to simply begin to notice this narrator, to observe its strategies without judgment.
to see how it constantly pulls your attention away from the present moment, away from the quiet soil of your own being. When you feel the familiar pang of anxiety, the urge to check your phone, the compulsion to compare yourself to another, can you pause, just for a breath, and recognize this as the ego sowing another weed? Can you see it not as you, but as a conditioned pattern of thought and energy moving through you? This is not about fighting the ego. The Sufis teach that you cannot fight darkness with more darkness. You do not get rid of the weeds by attacking them with rage, but by gently, patiently, and persistently redirecting the water of your attention to the roots of the rosebush under which the gem lies. The work is not one of violence, but of cultivation. It is a work of love. Rumi, the poet laureate of the soul, speaks of this process with breathtaking beauty. He says, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." He does not tell us to go on a quest for a new treasure. He tells us to engage in an act of profound archaeology within our own hearts. The love, the peace, the divine connection, the gem, is already our fundamental nature. It is the ground of our being. The work is simply to remove the layers of compacted earth, the stones of old hurts, and the tangled roots of fear that we have allowed to accumulate over it. We are not building a new house. We are renovating a forgotten palace. And the primary tool for this renovation, the spade that turns the soil, is the faculty of remembrance. The grand, futile journey of the man in our story represents a profound misunderstanding of where to find the sacred. He believed the gem was a destination, a geographical location at the end of a long and arduous road. This belief is the cornerstone of the modern materialist worldview, which tells us that reality is composed only of that which can be measured, touched, and located in space and time. It tells us that meaning is something to be constructed or discovered in the external world. But the mystics of all traditions, and the Sufis with a particular eloquence, propose a radical alternative. They assert that what we are seeking is not a what or a where, but a how. It is not a place, but a presence. The Quran, the foundational text of Islam from which Sufism draws its deepest inspiration, contains a stunning verse, "We are closer to him than his own jugular vein." The great Sufi masters took this not as a poetic metaphor, but as a statement of profound metaphysical fact. The divine is not a king on a distant throne watching us from afar. The divine is the very ocean of existence in which we as waves rise and fall. The reality we seek is not separate from us. It is the very fabric of our being. The silent awareness that is reading these words right now. The life force that is beating our hearts without any conscious effort from us. So why, if this presence is so near, does it feel so far away? The 13th century Andalusian master, Ibn Arabi, one of the most profound intellects in human history, offered a powerful analogy. He said that the relationship between the creator and creation is like the relationship between an object and its reflection in 1,000 different mirrors. Each mirror reflects the object from a unique angle with its own specific colorations, distortions, or clarity. The object itself remains one, but its manifestations are infinite. We are each a mirror. Our true purpose is to polish ourselves until we can reflect the one reality with the least amount of distortion.
The external search, the journey across deserts and oceans, is the act of a mirror chasing other reflections, hoping to find the original object among them. It is a fool's errand. A mirror cannot find the source of its reflection by looking at other mirrors. It can only find it by becoming still, clear, and receptive. The journey is not one of movement through space, but of movement from complexity to simplicity, from noise to silence, from a scattered and fragmented self to a unified and present self. This is why the traveler in the story had to fail. His exhaustion and defeat were necessary prerequisites for discovery. The ego, the I who believes it is the sole author of its life, had to exhaust all of its strategies. It had to try everything the world had to offer: adventure, knowledge, ambition, and find it all lacking. Surrender, in the Sufi context, is not a passive act of giving up. It is an active, intelligent, and courageous letting go of the illusion of control. It is the recognition that our own frantic efforts are the very source of our agitation. It is the moment we stop trying to row the boat and realize we can raise the sail and allow the winds of grace to carry us. Rumi captures this sentiment perfectly in one of his poems. I have lived on the lip of insanity, wanting to know reasons, knocking on a door. It opens. I've been knocking from the inside. The entire spiritual crisis of modernity is contained in this image. We are prisoners in a cell where the door has been unlocked the entire time, yet we spend our lives examining the walls, analyzing the lock, and shouting for a guard to set us free. The door does not open to the outside world. It opens inward. The journey is not one of escape, but of recognition. The freedom we seek is not freedom from our life, but freedom within our life. It is the realization that the peace of the garden is available right here, right now, underneath the noise of our own unexamined minds. The path, therefore, is not about adding anything new to ourselves, not a new belief, not a new identity, not even a new spiritual experience. It is a path of subtraction, of unlearning, of letting go. It is the gentle, persistent work of clearing away the debris that obscures the ever-present light. If the work is not to travel to a distant land, but to cultivate our own inner garden, how do we begin? The Sufi tradition offers a wealth of practical wisdom for this, a kind of spiritual horticulture. It is not a set of rigid rules, but a collection of tools and principles for polishing the mirror of the heart. And the most fundamental of these tools is what is known as zikr, an Arabic word that is often translated as remembrance. To a modern ear, remembrance might sound passive or purely intellectual, like recalling a memory. But in the Sufi context, it is the most active and potent practice imaginable. It is the deliberate and continuous act of remembering the divine presence, of reorienting the compass of the heart away from the distractions of the ego and toward the luminous reality that underlies all things. It is less about thinking about God and more about bathing one's awareness in the living presence of the real. Imagine you are standing in a room filled with beautiful furniture, art, and sunlight streaming through the window. But you have spent your entire life with your face pressed against one small gray corner of the wall, studying its every crack and fleck of paint. You have become a world expert on this tiny patch of wall. You had forgotten the existence of the rest of the room. Remembrance is the act of consciously, gently, turning your head away from that corner and taking in the whole vista. The room was always there. The light was always streaming in. But your attention was fixated, hypnotized by the mundane and the limited.
How is this practiced? In its traditional forms, it involves the repetition of sacred names or phrases, like a mantra, to focus the wandering mind. But the deeper principle can be woven into the fabric of any life, regardless of one's spiritual background. It begins with the breath. The breath is the ultimate anchor to the present moment. It is the rhythm of life flowing through you, a constant, faithful companion from birth until death. To bring your awareness to the sensation of your own breathing, the cool air entering, the warm air leaving, is to turn your head from the gray corner of your anxious thoughts and to begin to notice the room of the present moment.
It is a simple, profound act of returning home. From the breath, this practice of remembrance can expand. It can become the practice of truly feeling the ground beneath your feet as you walk. It can be the act of truly tasting the food you eat without the accompaniment of a screen or a worried thought. It can be the practice of listening to another person with the whole of your being, offering them the sacred gift of your undivided attention rather than simply waiting for your turn to speak. The 14th century poet Hafiz of Shiraz wrote, "The sun will not annoy its light to just one side of a mountain. The sun does not say, 'You are more worthy than that flower.' It shines on all." To practice remembrance is to learn to bring this sun-like quality of awareness to every moment of our lives. This is the act of polishing the mirror. Every moment of presence, every conscious breath, every act of kindness done with full attention is like a gentle wipe of the cloth across the tarnished surface of the heart. At first, you may not see a difference. The rust of habitual thinking is thick. The ego will protest loudly. It will tell you this is boring, that it's a waste of time, that there are more important things to do, more deserts to cross, more oceans to sail. But if you persist, gently and without self-judgment, something remarkable begins to happen. You start to notice small glimmers of light, a moment of unexpected peace in the midst of a busy day, a sudden piercing sense of beauty in a child's laugh, or the color of the evening sky, a feeling of deep connection to another human being that transcends words. These are not accidental. These are the first reflections of the uncovered gem. The light is beginning to shine through the thinning veils. This is the homecoming. The traveler in the story did not find the gem by deciphering a map or solving a riddle. He found it when he collapsed. He found it in a moment of utter surrender, when the ego finally fell silent. It is in this inner silence, this stillness, that the soft light of the heart can finally be perceived. The goal is not to stop thinking, which is impossible, but to stop being imprisoned by our thinking. It is to create enough space within ourselves for a deeper intelligence to emerge, the intelligence of the heart. The spiritual journey is not about becoming someone better. It is about becoming so quiet that you can finally hear the whisper of who you already are. It is the journey from the head to the heart, a distance of only 18 inches, but a pilgrimage that can take a lifetime. Now, let us bring this ancient idea into the living reality of your own experience. Let us pause the journey of the mind for a moment and arrive in the garden of the present. I invite you to participate in a brief, practical contemplation. You can do this wherever you are. Find a comfortable position, either sitting or lying down. Gently close your eyes if that feels right for you. If not, simply let your gaze soften and rest on a point in front of you. First, bring your awareness to your body. Simply feel the points of contact between your body and the surface that supports you. Feel the weight of your body, the gentle pull of gravity. For this moment, you don't need to hold yourself up. You are being held. Allow the tension in your shoulders to release. Soften the muscles in your jaw, around your eyes. Now bring your attention to the silent, faithful rhythm of your breath. Don't try to change it or control it in any way. Simply become aware of it. Feel the sensation of the air as it enters your nostrils, cool and fresh. Follow it as it fills your lungs, and then notice the gentle release as the warm air leaves your body. Stay with this for a few cycles, in and out. This breath is your anchor to the here and now. It is the simplest and most profound truth of your life in this moment. With this anchor of the breath, let us consider the parable of the traveler. Bring to mind, without judgment, the mythical gems you have been searching for in the outer world. What are they for you? Is it the gem of professional success? The gem of perfect financial security? Is it the gem of finding a soulmate who will finally complete you? Is it the gem of being seen, understood, and validated by others? Is it the gem of achieving a perfect state of health or a perfect body? Just allow these pursuits to arise in your awareness. See them for what they are: journeys across deserts and oceans. Acknowledge the immense energy you have expended in these searches. Acknowledge the weariness, the hope, and the disappointment that have accompanied them. Simply hold all of this with a gentle, compassionate awareness. There is no judgment here. This is the human condition. Now, gently let go of these images of the external search. Let them dissolve like clouds. Bring your attention back to the breath, back to the feeling of your body sitting here. Feel the aliveness within your own hands, the subtle tingling of energy. This is your garden, this present moment, this body, this breath, this awareness that is experiencing it all. Let a question arise from the quietest place within you. Ask it gently, not with the demanding mind, but with the open heart. The question is this: what if the treasure I have been seeking is not out there, but is in some way already here? Don't search for an answer with your intellect. Simply let the question hang in the open space of your awareness. What if the peace you seek is not in the absence of problems, but in the quiet space that holds all problems? What if the love you seek is not something to be earned from another, but is the very nature of this compassionate awareness that is holding your own experience right now? What if the feeling of home is not a physical place, but this simple, profound act of arriving in your own being? Stay with this feeling for a few more breaths, the feeling of being home. The feeling that perhaps, just perhaps, the gem is right here, buried under the familiar soil of your own heart. It may be just a faint glimmer, a subtle shift, a quiet sense of peace. That is enough. That is the beginning. When you are ready, gently bring your awareness back to the room around you. Slowly open your eyes. Carry this quiet sense of presence with you as you return. You have just tended to your garden.
The great secret revealed at the end of the traveler's journey is a beautiful and liberating paradox. He found the gem not because of his heroic searching, but because his heroic searching came to an end. The treasure was not the reward for his efforts, it was the revelation that awaited him in his surrender. His collapse in the garden was not an act of failure, but his first truly successful spiritual act. It was the moment the ego, the relentless seeker, finally stepped aside, exhausted, and allowed a deeper reality to be seen. This is the profound shift in perspective that Sufi wisdom offers to our modern, spiritually starved world. We are a culture that sanctifies effort, that worships achievement, that glorifies the struggle. We are taught that anything of value must be earned through blood, sweat, and tears. And while this may be true for building a career or running a marathon, it is the polar opposite of the truth when it comes to discovering the nature of our own soul.
The kingdom of heaven, as the Christian mystics would say, is not taken by force. The gem is not found by the most aggressive digger. It reveals itself to the one who becomes still enough to notice its light. Our spiritual crisis, then, is not a crisis of faith or a crisis of morality. It is a crisis of location. We are looking for an infinite treasure in the finite world. We are trying to quench a spiritual thirst with material water. It will never work. The world of form, of things, of achievements can be beautiful and enjoyable, but it is by its very nature transient and impermanent. To place the hope of our ultimate fulfillment in it is to build our house on shifting sands. The soul, the divine spark within us, yearns for its source. It yearns for the eternal, the infinite, the unconditional. And that source is not a place you can travel to on a map. It is the very ground of your own being. The return home is not a physical act. You are already there. It is a shift in consciousness. It is the realization that every moment, no matter how mundane or challenging, is your garden. The difficult conversation with a loved one is the soil. The boring task at work is the soil. The traffic jam is the soil. The moment of quiet solitude is the soil. The question is not how to escape the garden to find a better one. The question is, how can we tend to this soil right now with presence, with kindness, with awareness? How can we pull the little weed of a reactive thought? How can we water the ground with a conscious breath? This is a path of profound self-compassion. It is not about becoming a perfect, flawless saint. It is about embracing our messy, beautiful, complicated humanity with the light of awareness. The weeds will always grow back. The ego will never be completely silent. The journey is not about achieving a static state of perfection. It is about falling in love with the ongoing process of cultivation. It is about finding joy not just in the blooming of the rose, but in the simple, sacred act of tending to its roots. That which you are seeking is indeed also seeking you. There is a grace, a loving intelligence that is constantly calling us home to ourselves. The feeling of emptiness, the anxiety, the sense that something is missing, these are not punishments. They are the call. They are the gravitational pull of your own soul, reminding you of the treasure buried within. Your work is not to create the light, but to clear a space for it to shine. Your journey is not to find a long-lost home, but to finally, truly inhabit the one you have never left. The healing gem is not a destination. It is your origin. And the meeting place is here, now, in the quiet, sacred garden of your own heart.